Wow, hot dog, here we go. It is released. GridPoker. Finished the game. I just went back and looked and realized that I uploaded my original video creating this in a console C++ 10 days ago, and before that I think I had only worked on that for 2 days. So it's been less than 2 weeks that this went from just not even being an idea to fully released game done with art and music and sound. I've got it all set up. So here it is. I'm gonna, I guess, just show off the features and what I'm thinking and what my thought process was. First of all, the art is probably what I'm the most proud of. Most of my projects don't look very good, so when I make something that turns out looks pretty good, I'm pretty happy with it. I originally really didn't know what I was gonna do for the art. I was thinking of doing like some sort of like 80s like pink and blue vaporwave kind of with grids and like a highway. And I don't know really why I was thinking that, but I was talking to my friend Doc about it, and he's like, well, when I think of poker, I think of the Wild West. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So I created some Wild West assets. Started out with those train tracks on the bottom. I originally actually had a really wacky system in place where the sprites for all of the planks under the metal would rotate with perspective so that they would be like straight in the middle, and they would start out curved to the left like they are now, and then end up curved to the right, so it was kind of like you were looking straight at the middle. But honestly, it looked terrible, and I remember I spent like 3 or 4 hours setting up that system and making all those, like, I think there was like 30 sprites or something of just different planks at different perspectives, and I ended up just throwing away the whole system. So I think this looks way better. And then I drew a train, which I think it already flew by once, but it'll come by in a little bit. Did the sand dunes, and there's 10 different cactuses, and they can flip on the horizontal axis, so there's like 20 unique ways that they can look. And then there goes a tumbleweed in the foreground. Every time a tumbleweed spawns, there's a 1 in 30 chance of it starting a tumbleweed storm. There comes the train too. And if a tumbleweed storm starts, wow, there's a lot of tumbleweeds. So that's kind of fun if you get lucky to see that. The train, I think, is probably one of the best looking things I've drawn. My process for drawing the train, as well as those rocks you see in the background, was taking a reference image and shrinking it down to about the size I wanted for my pixel art, using the eyedropper tool in Photoshop to sample some colors. Sorry about that. And then basically, once I had a limited palette, I would basically just trace over it on a new layer in Photoshop. Getting better at using Photoshop, and I think these rocks I drew and the train are great examples of that. So everything else is pretty standard. I think I had a tricky time getting these shadows to work, because you can kind of tell the rock is behind the sand dunes, but the shadow is in front of the sand dunes, and it was tricky to make that work, to make the light interact with the cactuses. It's not really light; it's just a transparent black image, the shadow. And it's a lot to go into to explain how I got it to work, but I think the effect looks pretty good. Turning the game back on, I made this little cute pixel deck with I wanted the cards to be square. I knew that because I think just the grid looks better if it's not oblong. So I spent some time making that, and I think it turned out pretty good. I even drew all the individual little jacks, kings, queens, and the little ace flourishes. You can see the whole deck here. It doesn't show up perfectly, but yeah, everything's unique. Even the queens are holding their own flowers. I decided I put in this to show exactly how the scores are calculated. So everything's pretty obvious, and I even made this. I'm not the best at explaining things, but I think this does a pretty good job at explaining how the game is played. And when you first play it for the first time, there'll be a little button that shows up here that's like, "New player, would you like to learn how to play?" And it points over here, and I think that gets people into it pretty quickly. Just play this game mode a little bit, and we'll see what we end up with. Lock in. King of clubs. There. Oh yeah, and I added some little chimes for when something when a hand is completed. And the system I made, I'm actually pretty proud of. It's pretty complicated. It's basically I made a class that is called a queued flourish, and every time when you lock in your cards, it iterates through every possible row, column, diagonal, sees if there's 5 cards there, and if there is, it will basically create a new class or a new queued flourish that contains a bunch of data, like which cards it is the hand is made out of, and what the hand tier is, how many points the hand is worth, and then basically executes a little. All it does is expand the cards. I had actually some more interesting things that I was going to do, like if you got a big hand, it was going to flip them around or spin them, but it was just a little busy and I didn't think it looked great, so instead I differentiated between the hand tiers with those little piano tones, which I just made using a free little piano I found online. But I think it looks and sounds pretty good. Let's see. 10 hertz. I guess I'll put the 10 diamonds down there. So yeah, you can tell all the different. There's different chimes for every hand tier. Ace 6. Queen 6. There it is. And it also, one other thing I was happy with, when it starts executing all the different flourishes, it orders them from the lowest value to the highest, so it's kind of like doing an escalating scale when it goes through, which I think is pretty cool. As far as other stuff, I used a bunch of music that I found on the internet, a bunch of royalty-free lo-fi hip-hop, and I always like it when people give me credit for stuff I made, so I implemented this to show the current song that was being played and the artist. Got audio sliders for sounds and music, and you can turn it all off. Instead of putting in a next track button, you can go to the next track by double-clicking the mute button. What else? One regret I would say I have is, or I guess I don't know if this is a regret. I guess it's just an issue that I'll have to. Maybe there's a way to solve this, but in my limited research, it wasn't. With this web build, it stores the data for your dailies and your top score in Unity's player pref system, which appears to not work consistently. And also, I believe that if I ever update the game, these all that data gets erased effectively. So that's unfortunate. If somebody really is into this, they can always download it and it will be saved locally that way. But unfortunately, it's just the way that Unity works. And I'm from my understanding, I guess it's a security thing. I tested it on a few different browsers. Well, only a couple. It doesn't work in Brave and it does work in Firefox. So unfortunate, but maybe I'll find some other way of solving it. I think I would have to set up a server that can hold that kind of data, which doesn't really seem like something I want to do. It's unfortunate. I would have liked to have that be a feature, but it still is. It's just not perfect. I put a little shameless follow me on Twitter/X down there. I made a lot of stuff, and I don't know. I like to be able to share it with people and talk to people about it. So follow me if you like. I'd appreciate that, and I like to see those numbers go up, number get bigger. I think that's just about everything I wanted to talk about. So. Again, surprised it only took 2 weeks. I'm impressed with myself for that. I think I made something pretty cool in that amount of time. I'm happy with myself. Learned a lot about Photoshop, about Unity. I did use ChatGPT to help me with some stuff too. I think it's a really interesting tool. Not to get too much into that, but I think it's if used correctly, I think there's some practical applications for it. It's not good at some things, but it's really good at specific things, and I think the art of using it is kind of figuring out what it's good at, and it's an interesting tool. I think I'm going to add it into my regular repertoire of tools that I use when trying to problem solve and debug and stuff like that. Thanks for watching. I'll put a link to the game in the description if you want to go play it. Appreciate it. Have a good day. Take it easy.